Good morning, my little tater tots, and welcome to the Dick Family Basement on this wonderful Thursday morning. It is quite warm out today in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and thank you for all you early birds that are listening to my groggly voice this morning. Oh yeah, I got to get a little bit of that coffee here. So if you're new here, today is the weekly rundown where I just kind of run down the week in review. You can phone in and leave a message at 1-844-340-5001, or you can call in by using the app here at Podbean. Connell did it a few weeks ago. You just go click on the call-in button, and you can come and talk to me live and in person this morning. Yay! Also, too, I'm live streaming on X. If you use X or whatever, follow me at Catholic Mashup, and you'll never miss any sort of news or anything going on here at In the Redeemer. Okay, without further ado, we go over the athletic part of it, the sports part of this. Yesterday, the Bucks needed, or was it 2 days ago? Anyways, last time the Bucks played, they played Golden State Warriors without Steph Curry, and they needed to beat them because my T-Wolves are struggling. Okay, and they're neck and neck between the 5-6 like bracket or set. Anyways, like we need to get out of the play in the T-Wolves, and the Bucks lost. The Bucks were humiliated without Stephen Curry, and it made like Draymond Green look good, which I'm very, very disappointed in. That comes to my second team, the T-Wolves. They lost 2 in a row. They lost to the Pelicans yesterday. To the Pelicans. Okay, Zion Williamson looked really well or whatever. He's trim or whatever. But come on, man. We lost 2 in a row. We are definitely going to be in the play-in tournament this season, which is really sad, unless some of the other teams like basically lose more than we do, which I do not know if that's even possible right now. So I'm a little bit sad. I had a lot of hopes for the T-Wolves this year. But yeah, I guess something that I haven't talked about a bit is I cheer for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, one of the things I really loved about the Pittsburgh Steelers is they were like no drama franchise, right? Like not much drama, not much, off season. You never heard about them. They just played football. Okay. But they're in so much news right now. We might be getting Aaron Rodgers. Like, come on, man. Like, this is so ridiculous. We really, really screwed up our young quarterback, Justin Fields. I actually talked to a Steelers fan today. Yesterday, because yesterday was the feast, the solemnity of St. Joseph. We went out for supper, and there's a gentleman that I know, like casually, he runs a restaurant here in town. I didn't know this, but he's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And he thought that we should have kept Russell Wilson. Like, what? But he said he needs something, right? We need a quarterback. And I guess next, not this draft, but the draft after, we're planning to draft a quarterback. But come on. Anyways, it is a total dumpster fire. I'm just so happy that the Cleveland Browns play in the NFL, because without the Cleveland Browns, we would be a huge dumpster fire. Although someone told me we're not as bad as the Dallas Cowboys. That's a low bar. Okay, as you know, I want to cheer for an arena football team. We thought we had a league in the IFL. Connell, if you're listening, I don't know if we're going to do this anymore because the IFL just changed how you can watch their product. It's actually a paid thing. I don't really want to pay to watch arena football and cheer for someone. I don't know. Within the next probably week, I'm going to figure out what we're going to do. But I'm going to make a command decision. I need some people's help. Connell, if you're out there, maybe look at some other arena football teams or leagues or whatever that we can watch for free, and we can cheer for one of the teams there. But that's just sort of the sports rundown. In my own life, so yesterday was the first day I actually felt like close to 100%. I had kind of a stomach flu for a while, so it really knocked me out for a bit. And I really dislike being sick. No one does, but anyways, what a weird thing, and I'll kind of get to this with kind of like my stream of consciousness or whatever. But when I get sick, and it wasn't sick that I missed any work or anything else like that. I was still doing stuff, but sick enough that I guess the only plus side about being sick for me is that I really meditate about my own mortality a lot. And I think during Lent that's a good practice to have. Also, too, I had a recall on my vehicle on Monday, and I'm a little bit neurotic about stuff. A lot of my faithful listeners know about a year ago, we had lots of problems with our vehicle. We had to unfortunately get a new vehicle, and it's been really good so far. But we went for a recall, and there's something wrong. Anyways, it makes weird noises or whatever. Yesterday I went into the shops and hey, listen, so they're going in on Friday. I really need my vehicle. We only have one vehicle. It's like this. It's kind of stressful when you only have one vehicle, and I don't know, who knows what it is, but there's definitely something wrong. And you always think, oh, I'm going to take it to the shop. It's going to be better. Sometimes it is not. Ugh. Anyways, just lots of little niggly things like that, which is always tough. Also, too, and I'm going to get to, and this maybe is a good segue to my next point, is that I did a talk at St. Anne's Parish in Regina on the Liturgy of the Hours, and it went really well. It was very good, fairly well attended too. It was after Sunday Mass. St. Anne's Parish, if you haven't been there, I suggest that you go and visit that parish. Father Amadei is a very good preacher. He's a very African preacher, which I like. You know, he is very passionate. If you haven't heard a African priest preach, it is awesome. At least overall, like there's obviously some duds in the group, but Father Amadei is definitely not one of them. He's a very good preacher. But the reason why I mention it, for two reasons. One is the talk, and I'm going to get to that as my kind of stream of consciousness. But so I really dislike, if you know me, I really, really dislike new churches, right? I really dislike new churches. I don't like how they look. I don't like the architecture. I don't like the interior. I don't like any of it. So St. Anne's isn't what I would consider a new church. And it might be the only modern church, new church, that I don't right away hate. And I don't really know why. Okay, because it is objectively all the stuff I dislike about modern churches. But there is something, I don't know, intriguing about it. Like, I don't know how to explain it. If you've been to St. Anne's, maybe comment below or whatever. And if you haven't been there, just go there. It has sort of like stadium pew seating almost, but there is definitely a direction. Like a lot of modern churches, they don't really have direction of worship, but definitely St. Anne's does. And I think that's pretty amazing. And no matter which pew you're in, whether it's the back pew, front pew, or whatever, you have a direct, unobstructed view of the altar. And I think that's kind of cool. I don't mind stone. It's very brutalist, I guess, inside, lack of a better word. And I don't mind it. And there's lots of nice statues there. It's like this. I don't check it out. I'm just intrigued. This is the only modern church that I don't walk into and I find it revolting. Most modern churches I do, bar none. It's either modern churches in the Catholic Church are either very brutalist, if it was built in the 70s like this kind of ugly, concrete, very stark, or it looks like a Protestant megachurch, which both of those make me ugh. It's so not great. But anyways, so I went and gave a talk on Liturgy of the Hours, and it went well. And so I was talking about, so I usually don't in a lot of these talks share a lot about sort of my faith in particular. So I do have personal stories and everything else like this. But I was talking about my own faith life a little bit and talking about that I have a mind like a hamster on a wheel. And because of that, because I have a mind like a hamster on a wheel, it's hard to, shut that off. It's kind of always going. And my faith is very much driven by my mind, and it is hard in a lot of times to go into my heart. And it was kind of a throwaway part of my talk. I never spent much time on it. It was in context of praying, it's like this. And I said that it's very important that we have a mind and a heart in our prayer life, right? In our relationship with God, just like we have a relationship with our spouse or friends or anything else like that. So anyways, there was no questions, of course. I don't know why. I love questions, but there was no questions. So I ended it, and this lady came up to me, and she asked the question, like, how do you get out of your head? Like, what sort of disciplines do you have, right, to get out of your head, kind of get out of your mind and stuff like that? And I thought that was a really good question. and I think that there might be lots of us in that boat. I don't know. She was this young African lady who was very concerned that her faith was too cerebral, and she was saying that it was hard for her to love God with her heart. And I can really relate to that. And so here, I'm just going to share a few things that I was really thinking about from that interaction on Sunday to now. And so what have I done? Because at a young age, I knew this was a problem. And I won't get into the nitty gritty of it. This is not the place, nor do I have the time to. But just to say that it came, that part of my personality, or how I'm kind of wired, really came to a head when I was in grade 1, believe it or not. Okay, grade 1, 2. And it was kind of I would say a burden in a sense. And so I really had to work on that. And I think there's two ways we can kind of get out of our own self. And when we don't, right, when we just say, well, that's just who I am or whatever, I think that sort of personality trait, or how one is wired, really leads to narcissism. Really, and I think I see this in the world. I think the secular world or whatever is full of narcissists. But that's the sort of the fear in my life, is that if I don't keep that sort of in check, I will go down sort of this very selfish sort of road where I think that I can manipulate the world just through my mind. Now, you might think, Lamont, you're not a superhero or an X-Men. I get it. But we fool ourselves to think that. We fool ourselves, especially people that live a lot in their mind. We fool ourselves thinking that we can control everything. Okay, so one of the things is that there is a natural good in community. There's a natural good to be with people that you're not necessarily friends with. I call this the disinterested third party. It is always good to live in a place where there's lots of disinterested third parties. So, for instance, yesterday I mentioned that I knew a guy that owns a restaurant here in town, the Mad Greek, and I went to school with him. I didn't go to school, high school with him, but grade school. I just know him. He knows me. He knows my name or whatever. Are we friends? No. Are we friendly? Yeah, sure. But I would consider each other kind of like this disinterested third party, right? And I think he would be, if he's seen something that I was doing that he didn't like, he would be very, I think, comfortable coming to me and say, hey, listen, blah, blah, right? And I think this is really important in our own spiritual life, is that we need to have community. We need to put ourselves out there and be part of a community, to know and to be known, because it is so important. Because not only is it an opportunity to give service, right? So I think in our day and age, when we're so isolated from one another, and we still are, this was happening before COVID, and it really accelerated during COVID, and we're still living that way, is that when we become isolated, we also isolate our mind, and that's not a good thing, right? We need to have opportunities of service, and we need to have opportunities of accountability. I always tell people that one of the great privileges of serving a community that I grew up in is that I preach to people that some of them have changed my diaper. And that's a great humility, right? And it's a great check of my own my own ego and stuff like this, which is very important for someone who lives in their mind, is that my ego needs to be in check, right? So we live in a community. We live in this accountability and stuff like that. Another thing, the help, is to really have a disciplined, silent prayer. And this is something that I've worked on. This is the reason why I have silent adoration at St. Joe's. And what that does is allows us to process stuff, and it allows us to process our day-to-day life with Christ. And I think this is important because for me, if I don't have that discipline in my life, I just get really caught up in myself. I really get caught up in what I'm doing and how important things are. It's like this: if I don't slow down and just linger with Christ in silence. And once I do that, I realize that Christ, comes into my life. I have more conscious of that relationship with Christ, right? It's sort of like spanning time with your spouse, right? Sometimes you're just sitting there or eating. It's like this. There's this ordinariness to it. And I think that really breaks open my heart. And one of the, I guess, just happened to me yesterday, because I have Eucharistic adoration on Wednesdays. I was really in a funk, like mentally. This year so far has been kind of not great in a sense of my spiritual and mental health. In a sense, not that it's bad, but it's, I'm in a funk. I'm in definitely a desert part of my spiritual journey right now, and I was just kind of just my mind was going all different places. It was not a good place to be. And at about right at the end of Eucharistic adoration, I started to experience this peace that only Christ can give. And I just realized that, yes, this discipline, this purposeful sitting with Christ is a good, is a good, and that I need that in my life. So those are the two things. And if you have any other questions or anything about, spiritual practices or anything else like that, please let me know. Please leave comments in the down below or phone my 1-844 number. That's 1-844-3405-001. I'm still kind of experimenting what I want to do with the weekly rundown. I want to get some feedback or whatever. Right now, next few weeks, it's just going to be kind of ordered stream of consciousness. That's what I have in my notes anyways. So we're not playing many board games. Catherine is fairly busy with work and life and everything else like this, so I'm not playing too much board games. Although if my car situation, kind of whatever, resolves itself, I'll be playing board games in Phoenix High School here on Friday afternoon. And I'm pretty excited. I brought some board games down there for them to learn, and then they're going to teach me some board games that night. That afternoon. So that's pretty awesome. So what have I been reading? Thoughts for the Thoughtless. I've been starting to really kick up my reading game. I've kind of didn't read quite a bit for the last few weeks. I guess I could use the excuse that I've been busy, but that's just an excuse. But I'm almost done Endworld. It is interesting. So this sort of like apocalyptic popular literature of the 70s, 80s. I don't know. I'll rate them later. I have another sort of project where I kind of review and rate these kind of paperbacks or whatever. Another interesting thing at the talk, though, is someone took Love in the Ruins to read. So I'm very excited for her to get back to me on how she liked it. Also, there's this philosopher, Han, this South Korean German philosopher. I'm reading The Disappearance of Rituals, which is amazing. I'll kind of talk a little bit about that next week because I'll be done it next week. It's very good. I really, really encourage people to read all of his work. Last but not least, I've been reading, and I'll be probably finished this by the time next week rolls around, is Why the Purpose of the Universe by Philip Goff. Now, what's interesting is that this Philip Goff guy is not a believer by any stretch of the imagination, but he believes that the universe has purpose, and it's built into sort of the material world. So he believes that there is no sort of supernatural world, but by its very nature, matter has a purpose or a will. It's very bizarre to me. Like, why don't you just believe in God and we can fix all this? But and this sort of philosophy, I forget what it's called, pan something or other. Anyways, it's gaining lots of momentum in the philosophical world. It's a popular book right now. It's almost like Thomas Nagel. Thomas Nagel's an atheist. He wrote this really good book on the cosmos. I've mentioned it quite a few times. And he is not a believer either. And so he wrote this wonderful book that really points to a creator, but then spends, a bit end of the book saying why it's not a creator. It's something else. It's weird. It's weird that these people are not are humble enough to let truth guide them, but not humble enough to understand that they're just a creature and then there is a creator. Anyways, it's a good read so far. It's very, very good. So what have I been watching? So I've been watching Abbott Elementary with Serafina. There is a little bit of, it's not a perfect show by any stretch of the imagination, but it's entertaining. It's like this, and actually during this Lent, I can't watch anything on my phone or anything else like that. But we've really cut down on TV actually watching, and Serafina's been reading, which is pretty awesome. Catherine and I have been watching Father Brown, that BBC, the reboot or whatever, and it's pretty generic. As my sister Tanj says, it's like a cozy murder mystery, which I can't disagree with that. Okay, what about this? What about starting a mutual aid society in your parish? So what is a mutual aid society? It's where a group of people get together and pool their money. So let's say everybody puts in, like, let's say $5 a month, and this money then goes to aid not like people of the community, right? That we go and help out people that might be part of the parish or outside of the parish, but it'd be the will of that group to do that. And I think we need some sort of outreach like that. I think that one of the things that kind of rubs me the wrong way about the kind of what I call the professional social justice within the churches, it's always someone else's responsibility, right? We're always looking outside of our community. We're demanding other people to make sacrifices. It's sort of like this whole, environmentalism, which I think I am an environmentalist in a sense that I think we should be a good steward of our material world, our natural world. But I'm sick and tired of people telling me how to live my life that travel and have more opulence than I ever could imagine. It's distasteful and really egotistical and everything else like that, right? And I think that this is what a mutual aid society does. It allows people to have direct contact with the people that we are serving, and that we can be, there could be some reciprocal responsibility to our community. And people in the mutual aid society has something to lose in the sense that you put your hard-earned money towards that pot of money that can be used and stuff like that. So I think this is something that is underutilized in the church. It used to be, like, the Catholic Church used to be huge in the mutual aid societies, and until sort of like the government took away our ability to do these things. Now, it took away our ability not because through laws or anything else like this. It took away our ability because we were brainwashed to think the government can solve all of our problems, and that is completely not true at all. Here is the disputed area. So it's been 5 years since the dreaded COVID. And I'm getting lots of, feedback and how we were wrong, and so like how the world, blah, blah, blah. But here's my dispute here. Why can't people just say that they're wrong? Okay. Like I was pretty, I think, open and straightforward and honest with people, what I thought about COVID. I won't rehash that, but, and there was people in my life that were just crazy on both ends of the spectrum. And both ends of the spectrum in a lot of ways were wrong. And I'm waiting for people to come to me and say, yeah, I kind of made your life kind of living hell, made you feel guilty for this, that, the other thing. And like, I'm sorry for that, because it turns out, you were right. Now, I wasn't 100% right, and I've come to people and say like, yeah, like, but I was pretty solid. I I'm not, I didn't, demand people to do this, that, the other thing in my life. It's like this. So I don't know. I just, like, we need a little bit of humility that when we're wrong, just to say that. I try to live that out pretty clearly. I'm not perfect. I screw up quite a bit. And just to come out, like, one of the things that come to mind in my own life is that I have a real zero tolerance for talking to the refs during a basketball game. So my players don't do that. I don't do that. And a few during basketball season, I just yell, like, I wasn't talking directly to ref, but it was definitely towards the ref about like zone defense, man to man. Anyways, the minutia is not important. But I actually came to her at halftime and apologized to the ref. And the ref tried to tell me it wasn't a big deal. And I had to tell her that, no, it's a big deal for my team. It's a big deal for integrity, right? And that I apologized. I said there was no excuse for that behavior. And I think she was really shocked that I gave no excuses or anything like this. Now, obviously, I was motivated by the Holy Spirit at that time. That wasn't me, because that just doesn't come naturally to me, or I think to anyone. But I think we should start to, foster that ability just to say that I screwed up, right? And like, why can't we do that? Anyways, inconsequential hot take. Here's my inconsequential. First of all, I know I mentioned this last week. Best movie, snackies and popcorn. It's nachos. I'll be putting that to the test sometime soon. There hasn't been any really good movies that I want to go see in the movie theater right now, but hopefully soon. This week's inconsequential hot take: being over prepared is worse than being under prepared. And this is something that universally for me is so true. When I over prepare for a homily, it usually stinks because my mind is all jumbled up. I have all this information. I have all these ways I can go. When I give a homily or talk, mentally for me, it's like choose your own adventure. I don't use a lot of notes when I give a talk, and that's a whole different, another reason for that. I wish I could use notes. I'd probably be a better speaker. But anyways, when I'm over prepared, it is a gong show. It is, you can tell. All my faithful listeners on Sunday Mass, you can tell if I'm over prepared because it's like a dog's breakfast when I preach. Now, under preparing has its own sort of battles and struggles or whatever. But I think, and for me, and I think kind of universally, under preparing is a lot easier to tackle than over. If I under prepare, it's like this, at least I can, at least my mind is not jumbled with a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah. Anyways, that is the show. Am I a March Madness fan? I am not, actually, Deacon Dave. Hopefully your cows are being born well, and hopefully it's not too muddy where you're at. But yeah, I'm not a big March Madness fan. Mostly probably because I don't have cable or anything. I can't really watch that. I think it's pretty cool and everything else like this. I could get on the bandwagon, but I have not in the past. So yeah, that's the long answer to that. It looks like Connell is in the house too, because I know when Connell is listening to my weekly rundown, because he likes this show like a gazillion times. So special shout out to Connell. And yeah, that's it. That's a wrap up. We will be praying the Divine Mercy Chaplet at 7:00. And, yeah. And so hope to see you there. Till next time, God bless. Have a great day and keep it crispy, militator dots.